I'll be starting soon, guys. Stay tuned. I'll be starting very soon. Hello everyone. Hello everyone. I am live. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The Movie Canon. I'm Giovanni, and this is a new episode of the Met Report, a show about movies, entertainment, and television news. And there's a few things that I'm going to be talking about here today. And first, I added a little bit of music into the stream. So if anyone can hear, let me see if I can find it here. Okay, so I don't see that it's actually playing, or at least I can't tell if it's playing or not. But if you guys can let me know at least that you can hear me okay, you know, the mic is okay, the sound is okay, the picture is okay. And actually, let me check on the camera one more time because I'm starting to see a little bit of a lag again. So hold on a second here. So again, this is Giovanni, and this is the newest episode of the Met Reports, and the camera, the settings seem to be okay. So hopefully it's not too laggy. Okay, so then guys, let me know if you can actually hear the little music or if the music is too loud. Actually, let me check that on my own here. Hold on a second here. Give me a sec, guys. I'm trying to add the music here. Hold on a moment. I thought I added it earlier, but for some reason it's just not playing it. So hold on a sec. So thank you everyone if you guys are watching live. Again, let me know if you could hear me, if the image is shoddy or it's messed up. Let me know. Hold on a sec here. Hold on a sec. Okay, so the music should be playing. Let me just double check that again. Okay, so the music looks like it is playing now. So let me just double check. Yeah, it looks like it is playing. And guys, let me know if the audio of the music is too loud for you. Just let me know. But there's just a little music that I added. I want to have something in the background during the live stream. So I'm just gonna basically start over here. So I have a few people here on the chat. Thank you so much for joining here today. Again, let me know if you can't hear me, if the audio is bad, if the music is too loud, or if the picture is bad or something. Just let me know. And again, I'm Giovanni, and this is my new episode of the Met Report. I am live. The Met Report, a show about movies, entertainment, and television news. So I'm going to be talking about a few things here, and so the main thing in this particular episode is I am going to do a spoiler review of The Flash. That won't be until the end of this stream. So there'll be a few things that I'm going to talk about before we even get to that, in case you haven't seen The Flash and you don't want to deal with any spoilers or anything like that. That will be towards the very end. Okay, so let's see here. So the first thing here is subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, for future content, future giveaways, and so forth. And one of the things I'm going to talk about here today is that it is going to be a Hot Toys segment. It's going to be a very short Hot Toys segment this week, because the announcements and the releases were kind of mediocre-ish. So let's see here. Hold on a moment. Hold on a sec. Hold on a moment. Okay, sorry about that. Having a little bit of issues here again with the technical stuff of things, like always. Okay, so again, so this is so Hot Toys. It was kind of quiet this week. They didn't really do a lot of big announcements, at least ones that I found interesting. So it's going to be very short, but I will talk about some of the Hot Toys announcements and releases. This one right here is something that I'll mention. It's more of a tease, not much of an announcement. But I'll talk about that. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a a spoiler review of The Flash. So I'll be doing that. And then also I'm still doing the the giveaways, the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse giveaway. That is still open, and just follow the instructions and so forth. So that is still open, and it'll probably close sometime next week or maybe the following week. But we're getting close to actually closing this and then announce a winner. And then last week I announced this one right here, the Affleck Batman Funko, and then the Barry Allen Flash Funko. So that one is still open, and I'll probably announce the winner for that one probably closer to the end of the month. So we have that, and there's also some news that we got about the new Batman movie, the Bold, or the Brave and the Bold. So we'll talk about that. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a spoiler review of The Flash that I will be talking towards the end of this. Alright, so I think that's the main things I wanted to talk about here. And I'm kind of like testing things out here because there's some stuff that is I'm still testing things out. Like every single time I do live streams, I'm still testing things out. And I just added this music here, and I'm trying to use more of an Ethernet cable for the stream so that it's not too like laggy, like not too laggy. It looks like it might still be kind of laggy, but we'll see what's going on there. All right, so hold on a second here. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, or actually the first thing that we are going to talk about here today, is going to be this report that we got here. So that was earlier this week. That was maybe a couple of days ago or so. So we have this announcement that the Batman movie, The Brave and the Bold, that film was announced a few months ago. I think when James Gunn did his stream or his video announcing the slate that he's planning on doing for the new DC universe film projects. So one of these was this project here, the Brave and the Bold Batman. So earlier this week they did announce the Flash director, Andy Muschietti. He is going to direct this film. So this report comes from the Hollywood Reporter, and it says here, the feature will introduce a new Dark Knight as well as his son Damian Wayne. It's official, Andy Muschietti is going to the Batcave. So ahead of the release of his superhero movie The Flash, Muschietti has decided to keep his feet firmly in the land of DC. Muschietti finalized a deal to direct The Brave and the Bold, the feature project that will introduce a new big screen version of Batman, one that will fit into the expansive universe being developed by DC Studios heads James Gunn and Peter Safran. So the involvement has been whispered about for the several weeks. Muschietti, who has been on the Flash press tour, has been coy about his connection, but a deal was finally closed this week, according to a source, very conveniently timed to the opening of this movie. Let's see if there's some other stuff here. It is unclear if the project has a writer. According to the sources, Christina Hodson, who wrote the Muschietti, the Flash movie that just came out, was circling but decamped to work on a Fast and the Furious movie. So there's that. It is unknown when a writer would be hired, given the current screenwriter strike that has brought movie and TV development to a standstill in Hollywood. Still, the deal-making notches another director for Gunn and Safran's DC roster. James Mangold is attached to direct the feature centered on a horror hero, Swamp Thing. So this is just some news about yet another, a new project in this new DC universe under James Gunn. So there's a lot of new things that are happening with this new film. And when it comes to the Flash, again, this episode does go into spoilers of the movie, so I'll keep my comments for now because I won't do the actual spoiler review until the end of this video. But there's some information there that kind of talks about the future of the DC and how this one may be involved or not. So now this movie is separate. It's not part of the Robert Pattinson Batman movies, the Matt Reeves movies. So this is something completely separate. And they've announced the director, and I'm sure eventually they'll announce a writer and so forth after the whole writer strike thing is over with. So there's that. So that's the news regarding the Andy Muschietti, that he's directing The Brave and the Bold. So what are your thoughts on this? Are you a fan of just Batman overall, or even this comic, this storyline? Maybe you're not a fan of that. I'm not sure, but let me know. Leave it in the comment section. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to move on to here, and this is something that I mentioned earlier. So, and also as I mentioned in the last few Met Report segments, I did add a figures segment or Hot Toys segment, and this week is kind of short, but they teased Supergirl. So they teased Supergirl Hot Toy. Now this is the image that they released. So this image that I'm showing right here, I just took it from Hot Toys and I just posted it here. They didn't show anything. Obviously that's part of the movie, is not the actual figure. So obviously they're teasing this. I don't know when they're actually going to announce officially and when they're actually going to show us the Supergirl Hot Toy, but obviously they've teased it. And I know that in the past, I know there's history that sometimes Hot Toys teases figures and they don't actually make them. I'm not totally sure why they don't end up doing it. Maybe they just didn't find that there was enough interest or whatever the case may be, and they just don't do them. That's a possibility, but I don't think that's going to be the case for this one. I think they are going to announce this one fairly quickly because they have announced 3 figures from the Flash film already. So the Keaton Batman, the Affleck Batman, and the Flash, the Ezra Miller Flash. So I think with adding her, that will complete like the main characters that you've seen like in the posters and the trailers. Those are the main ones. I guess they're still missing the other Barry Allen that you've seen in the trailer as well. They haven't announced anything about that yet. So that's Flash. I am curious to see what she looks like. We'll see how much she is. We'll see what the likeness is of the actress Sasha Kaye. So hopefully they announce it in the next week or so, and of course I'll address it. I'll talk about it in another figures segment. So another figures talk segment here is that Hot Toys did announce Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So in the last month or so, they have been announcing slowly the Guardians of the new film figures. So they did Groot, then they did Rocket with Cosmo, then they did Star-Lord. And in the Star-Lord images of the figure, you could see Nebula. You can see the back of Nebula. So they were kind of teasing it. So it took a couple weeks, but they've officially announced Nebula as the next figure for Guardians of the Galaxy for Volume 3. I'm not excited about this figure. Of course, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy any Guardians of the Galaxy Hot Toys or figures. I just don't. I don't think they're bad. Like, the movies are fun and cool and everything, but I'm not going to go out of my way and buy the Guardians of the Galaxy Hot Toys figure line, and they all wear the same outfit, so I'm not really that excited for this announcement. But I mentioned the others before, and I'll try to give you guys information about these figures on this Hot Toys figure stock segment in the Met Report. And if you're interested in this, I'll give you a little bit of information here. I'm not going to go into details like the other ones, but here's the accessories that come with Nebula. I believe none of these light up. I think there's some other ones. There's some other figures like the Flash film figures like the Keaton and the Affleck, and even the Flash, like they light up and stuff like that. This one does not. I think the images that they showed was photoshopped, so it wasn't actually lights or you know, that you have to use batteries. I don't think they even have that option at all. So that's what they have for this Nebula one. I know that they released another one before, and I think it's from either Endgame or Infinity War, or maybe it was from Volume 2. But I think they've only announced one other Nebula, and from my understanding, it didn't sell that well. So I don't know if they're actually gonna profit off this one. I have no idea. If you're a fan of Nebula of Guardians of the Galaxy, let me know if you're interested in getting this, or are you gonna get any of the Guardians figures? You know, they're expensive, so maybe these are worth it to you. And as far as the price, this Nebula hot toy from Volume 3 is $285. And just like the other ones that I mentioned earlier, this like the last month or so of the figures, they're expected to ship in July through December of 2024. So like a little over a year and a half or so that you would get this. So $285 for this Nebula. And let's move on to some of the announcements. So sometimes, you know, Hot Toys does their announcements of new figures that they're gonna have for you to pre-order if you want them, and then they do the releases that they're actually ready to start shipping. So these two that I'm going to talk about briefly are the releases. So the first one that they did earlier this week is the Loki, from the TVA Loki from the Loki series. So this is the figure. This was announced already, I think, sometime last year. So it looks like it's ready to be shipped. And if you already pre-ordered it, then you're probably excited because you're about to get it. You're about to get it in the next 30 days or so, 2 months maybe. But it looks like this one's ready to go. They also have the Sylvie character from the Loki series. So if you haven't seen Loki, then you probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But this is the Loki TVA version. Now, as far as the show itself, the series, I really liked the first episode of Loki, and then it kind of started going downhill. I think they only had like 6 episodes of the whole series, and there was maybe like 2 or 3 that I actually liked. And then at the end, you know, they reveal Kang. Well, I guess they didn't really call him Kang at the time, but it's Kang, the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors, which there's another issue with the actor there, so there's a whole other thing there. But so that's the first time we see Kang. So that scene was interesting when they actually introduced him. He was in the finale of this series, but overall the show, I don't think it was that great. It was okay, but I enjoyed the very first episode more than the rest of the show. And then they presented this here, so it does have all these little accessories, as with Miss Minutes and the little TVA computer, and then he has the jacket if you want to wear the jacket. He's all tailored, and he has the tie. I mean, it looks good. You know, Tom Hiddleston. It looks like him here, so the figure looks good. I mean, it has all these joints and so forth, but some people don't like that. Some people like the seamless. Like, I would prefer seamless, but if you wear the jacket, I guess you won't really notice it. But this wouldn't be, if I were to get a Loki figure, it wouldn't be this one. I would get the Avengers Endgame one that has more of the traditional Loki look. So we'll get that. The other thing that they again presented as soon to be shipped if you pre-ordered it already is the character from the Bad Batch in Star Wars, the animated series that came out a couple years ago. This is Crosshair. I wasn't a fan of Clone Wars, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know in my previous streams or videos. I wasn't a big fan of Clone Wars. I only saw some of them, and I hated the Clone Wars movie. And this one's connected to the Clone Wars, so it had their own series, the Bad Batch. I did watch the first episode of the Bad Batch series, and it wasn't bad. So I did actually watch the second one, or I was curious to watch the second one, and I tried to watch it, but then it went downhill very quickly in the second episode already. So I stopped watching it. So I haven't seen this. This is a character, the Bad Batch Crosshair. So looks like he's ready to go. if you pre-ordered him. I don't even know if you can order him anymore, but this is the other image here. Hold on a sec. Okay, so that's the one right here, and so I mean, obviously I'm not getting this, but there you go with that one. So I think that was pretty much it for. I think that was it for the figures talk. So again, there wasn't that much. Hopefully next week they have more announcements. Because even if I'm not going to buy all these hot toys that they keep announcing, I mean, they announce like a hot toy like once or twice a week. Obviously, I'm not going to buy most of them. But I do like talking about them because sometimes they look cool. And that's why I added this figure segment for the Met Report. So there you go. So let's see here. So, let's talk about this real quick. So I'm actually not going to do like a whole thing of this, but I did watch a movie yesterday. Now I watched The Flash for a second time on Thursday night. And yesterday I did watch another movie, and it's this one right here. The Blackening. Tagline, "We can't all die first." So this came out yesterday and I saw it, and it's a spoof horror movie, and it was actually a lot of fun. Surprisingly, like the trailer looked kind of funny, but you just never know with trailers when it comes to comedies. A lot of the times they just show all the comical parts in the trailer, and then when you actually see the movie, it actually really, really sucks. So this one was actually fun. Now, I like my number of spoof movies. Scary Movie, Scary Movie 2. I like those. Then they started making some other scary movies and some other spoof films. Now, those other movies, like they started doing was a superhero movie, disaster movie, and I think there was like a vampire one that was kind of making fun of Twilight. I only watched part of one of them, and then I gave up. I'm like, I'm not doing spoofs anymore. Because I did like I said, I did like Scary Movie that came out in 2000, and then Scary Movie 2 in 2001, and then the rest of them. Scary Movie 3 was okay, but then Scary Movie 4 was terrible, and then I stopped watching the rest of the scary movies and any spoofs after that. And they've been very, very bad. This one is a spoof, but it's one of the better ones. I wouldn't say that it's like my favorite. Like Scary Movie will probably be my favorite spoof movie. Because there's a lot of nostalgia and it has a lot of like Scream stuff going on, and I found it to be hilarious, and I was like in high school when it came out, so I found it even more hilarious. But this one was actually good. With the movie canon system, we have the 3 S's: see it, stream it, or skip it. This is definitely a see it, grade B minus. It wasn't necessarily a movie that I would want to rewatch, so that's why I kind of give it like a B minus. But it was fun, it was entertaining. I did laugh a few times, and a lot of people were laughing throughout the movie, and it actually does have some parts that is kind of like horror-like. Like, it's, even though it's a spoof, there's like some serious horror shit going on, like when it comes to like the gore and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun, surprisingly. So I liked it. So if you don't have anything to do and you want to go see a movie and you like comedy spoofs, check this one out. So I did like that one. All right, so I'm gonna get into the spoiler review of The Flash. So again, if you haven't seen The Flash, you may want to stop watching or watch it later when you watched it, or if you don't care, then that's cool too. But I am going to do a spoiler review right now of The Flash. So last week I did do the non-spoiler review of the film, and that one's on my channel, so check that one out if you don't want any spoilers. But for this one, it's like there's a lot of things going on with this movie that I wanted to talk in my non-spoiler review, but I couldn't because there were spoilers and everything. But I was like, let's do an actual spoiler review of this movie and talk about the details, because there's a lot of shit going on in this movie. Overall, I did like the movie. Overall, it was a lot of fun, and I give it an A minus. And after watching it the second time, I'll stick to the A minus. I know a lot of people had a lot of problems with mainly the CGI, which I'm going to talk about in just a bit here. So let's begin again. So again, this is the spoiler section here. So I'm going to talk about, the positives like I usually do here. So the first thing here is Sasha Kaye, who plays Supergirl. And so they didn't go with Henry Cavill because there's been issues with, I don't know exactly what the details are, but, Henry Cavill hasn't been in a lot of these DC movies. And while they show the back of Henry Cavill's Superman in The Flash, but he's like on a TV and it's like a news segment. He's like helping saving a town about a volcano or something, so you can see like the back of him, but you can't actually see Henry Cavill. But you know that it's him. But they decided to go this route. They got Supergirl. So the universe that we get into in this movie, they don't have the Henry Cavill Superman, so they have her, Supergirl, and she was cool in it. The actress was good. She was, like I mentioned last time, she's a badass. She does a lot of cool scenes, a lot of sequences, and she's not in the movie much, but the scenes that she's in, she was pretty cool. And if they somehow bring her back, I'll be totally okay with that. So she was definitely a positive when it comes to Kara Zor-El, Supergirl, which again played by Sasha Kaye. And the obvious one here, and this is something that I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, is of course the Batman. Particularly here in this image we have Keaton's. So obviously Michael Keaton's appearance in the film. And now Michael Keaton is not my favorite Batman. I mentioned this before too in another stream that I made I ranked all the Batman actors, and it was a collective. It wasn't just my opinion, but it was other members of the movie canon. And Michael Keaton, I don't think he was in the top 3 actually. But I mean, I like Michael Keaton. He's just not my favorite one, but I do like seeing him again. I did like that they announced that Michael Keaton was returning for this, and it would make sense because we were all talking about, this was going to be some version of Flashpoint, some kind of multiverse thing going on. And okay, it could probably work, and I think it did work. So Michael Keaton being in this as Batman Bruce Wayne, I think it worked very, very well. If Michael Keaton has always been your Batman, your Bruce Wayne, then this is definitely a movie for you because he's in it quite a bit. Obviously he's not the lead, but he's more in it than Supergirl is, and he's definitely more than just a little cameo, to which I'll talk about the cameos in just a bit here in this spoiler review. But he was cool. It was nice seeing him an older Bruce Wayne, and just seeing him, all the fighting sequences that he did in the movie, and the suits, and we see the Batmobile again from the 90s, 89, 92. So it was cool to see all that. And then he does a very cool explanation of the multiverse and the timelines with spaghetti, which worked very, very well. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, the way that he does it. And it works with the story. So that was good. And so that was Keaton in particular. Now, going to the Affleck portion of this. Now, I mentioned this in the non-spoiler review that I loved the Batman sequence with Affleck, the Bat Cycle sequence in particular. That's like the main Batman scene that we have with Affleck. Now Affleck is in other scenes in the movie, but he's not as Batman. He's as Bruce Wayne or whatever. So I like the scene in the movie, and it was just a very cool action sequence. And as I mentioned earlier too in a stream, when it comes to figures, I'm really debating if I want to get this Batman Affleck hot toy and the Bat Cycle, except the faceplate of Affleck, the likeness is not theirs, so that's why I haven't pulled the trigger on that, because it doesn't really look like Affleck that much. It looks like it's stunt double. But this sequence was very, very cool. Again, if you're just a general Batman fan, if you're a big Affleck fan, and you've seen this movie, I'm sure you really, really liked it. And if you haven't seen this and you don't care about spoilers, because again, this is a spoiler review, I think you will like this sequence here. So I did like Affleck as the Batman or Batman, so this is part of the positives here. Okay, so again, So again, this is a spoiler review. I'm just going to mention this again, just so in case some of you guys don't know that this is a spoiler review section or segments of The Flash. Right now, I'm about to get into the cameos of the film. So that's what I'm getting on the screen right now, real quick here. So we're gonna get into some very heavy spoilers, and there's gonna be graphics. There's gonna be images. So even if you can't hear me, you'll see stuff that is spoilery. Okay, so just warning you guys now. Okay, so I was very surprised by a few things, cameos, and you know, there's the whole debate, the whole question about fan service. Okay, so I think fan service, I think a lot of us do like fan service. I think a lot of us do enjoy and appreciate the fan service. We do want to see certain characters that we've seen in the past, you know, growing up, and I think a lot of us do like that. So there's been some information or some stuff out there that people are always complaining about. You know, this is just fan service. This is just fan service. Like, okay, yeah, but I mean, if it makes sense, if it makes sense in the story, then why not? Why wouldn't you want to see a character that you did like or that you've seen in the past? Why wouldn't you want to see them again if you're able to? But mainly, does it make sense? And I would argue that yes, it does make sense. All these cameos that we have, or at least most of them, that are in this movie. Okay, so let me just check on something here because the camera looks like it's kind of laggy. So let me just double check on something here. Hold on a sec. Okay, so we have taking the camera settings. To me, it kind of looks like it's laggy. For the people who are in the chat right now, do you notice, is it kind of the picture quality kind of laggy? Let me know if that's the case here. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and move on here. So the main thing here is this. So we have George Clooney. So George Clooney comes in as Bruce Wayne. So he appears at the very end. It's like the very last scene of the movie. And, you know, at that point, there was a bunch of things going on with the Flash, with the Dark Flash, who was trying to get into all these multiverses, all these different timelines to correct and fix things. And in the process of that, even though the older or the main Barry Allen does come in and fix things, obviously it didn't fix absolutely everything, because when Barry Allen gets a call after there was the victory with the case with the father, with the murder case of the mother, so he gets a call and it says Bruce Wayne, and then we see the car pulling up at the building of the court building, and it's the same car that Bruce Wayne, the Affleck one, was driving earlier in the film. So it's okay, so he's driving the same car, so it's like it's probably gonna be, you know, we expect Ben Affleck there, and then all of a sudden Bruce Wayne pops up, but is actually George Clooney. So the George Clooney from the Batman and Robin movies, so he popped up there. So that was kind of surprising. I was like, oh shit, they actually brought in George Clooney for this. And yeah, so let's see here. Birdie Moon says a bit, not much. I think you're referring to the lag. You're referring to the lag, that it's like a little laggy. It's a little laggy. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's doing that. Maybe it's the internet connection, but there you go. I'll try to fix it some other time, do a little bit more tests. But going back here, so thanks for letting me know. And so going back here to the George Clooney stuff. So yeah, so it was surprising to me because I know he's talked shit about, you know, playing the character in the past. He's apologized for playing the character and so forth. So it was like, oh, so they actually, I don't know if they needed convincing. I don't think they necessarily need to convince George Clooney to come back. Maybe there's a bit of nostalgia for him. Here's my chance to be Batman again in this particular case, which made sense. It's just a little cameo. He's not even wearing the suit. It's just Bruce Wayne. So that was surprising, and I like that. I mean, that was straight up fan service, but I mean, it works with the story. What they're gonna do with it in the moving forward, have no idea, because when it comes to the DC universe, it looks like they did reboot certain things when it comes to some of the characters, but not all of them. right? So I don't necessarily think that in this universe that we're gonna have George Clooney as Batman moving forward. I don't think that's the case at all. But there's definitely some questions there. But I thought that was interesting, and it was funny that he popped up. The other thing here is we have Nick Cage as Superman from the canceled Superman Lives movie that Tim Burton was working on back in the 90s. I think that's when Nicolas Cage was like working on movies like Con Air and Face Off. I think it was during that time frame. So they were actually very close to starting to film this movie, and it was canceled, and I think it was related to like budget issues. I guess it was ballooning big time, and they were just like, no, we can't do this. And they even did like a little a test screening, or not test screening, like Nicolas Cage tried on the suit, and there's footage of it. There's even a documentary out there. I think it's called The Death of Superman Lives. I think you talk about that story, about that canceled movie. So that was completely shocking to me. I was really surprised about this when he popped up in the movie. It's very, very brief. Now it looks very CGI. Now the graphics that you see here, they look really, really bad, because I was trying to find a decent image, a decent graphic that showed Nicolas Cage as Superman. And I think this is actually from The Flash, that little small section there. But the quality is really, really bad. But that's the only one that I was able to use. But that's Nicolas Cage as Superman. And I guess there was a part of the script regarding this movie that he was going to fight some giant, like, mechanical spider or something that you see in the movie. So I guess that was part of the script. So they're kind of like including it. And then the other thing is that a lot of these sequences, when it comes to some of these cameos, not the George Clooney one, but this one, and then some other ones that I'm going to mention, they look very CGI-ish. And I know some of them were, because some of those actors are not alive anymore. But for this particular one, it looked very, very CGI-like. And then I'll talk about that in the negative section. But apparently, it looks like Nicolas Cage actually did show up, and he actually did film his scenes for this. And that's kind of goes back to the whole thing about Andy Muschietti mentioned something that, you know, the CGI, the visual effects are supposed to be like this. They are supposed to be kind of weird looking. And then I'll talk about that in the negative section. But when it comes to this particular scene, it looks like Nicolas Cage did show up and record his scene. Another one here, again, another cameo. So we have Helen Slater, who played a Supergirl in the 80s. I think her movie came out in 84. I remember watching this movie as a kid, and I did like this movie, Supergirl, and then I forgot about the movie for like years, but I actually did like Supergirl. And she was in this, so that was her appearance, and again, she looked very CGI like, but apparently she also showed up and filmed her scene. So again, we'll get into the CGI stuff in just a bit here, but Christopher Reeves, he pops up. CGI, that one obviously had to be CGI, or de-aging or whatever. Obviously it wasn't Christopher Reeves, because he's been dead for years. I think like almost 2 decades now, probably. So he pops up. So that was cool to see, you know, both of them here. First Christopher Reeves pops up, and then Helen Slater, Supergirl, pops up shortly after that. So that was very cool, and you know, the experience, the reaction from the audience, you know, people loved it, especially in this pre-screening one. They seemed like there was a lot more DC fans there, so the reaction was more with the pre-screening when they popped up. That was pretty cool. Okay, the other thing is George Reeves. So he pops up very briefly. This is again in the same sequence, in that little section where Barry Allen or the Flash, they're in their like the little bubble about jumping into timelines or multiverses or whatever, and then you start seeing a bunch of things that is changing, things in the background, and then you see these characters, these different versions, variations of Superman, Batman, Adam West at one point I think I saw was there very briefly, and then this guy shows up, George Reeves, who was the actor who portrayed Superman in a TV series. I think it was in the 50s. I want to say it's in the 50s. Might be 60s, but he portrayed Superman, and they showed him real quick, and I was like, oh, that's interesting that they actually show him here. That's part of its own universe. And then what I found interesting, considering especially since we have Ben Affleck, who is actually in this movie as Batman. Ben Affleck played George Reeves, so he played him. Ben Affleck played George Reeves in a movie called Hollywood Land that came out in 2006. So I thought that was kind of interesting, at least for me, that they brought him up. George Reeves did. The Ben Affleck Superman, they didn't obviously show him in the movie, but I found that interesting. So yeah, so that was so that's the positives, positive things about the Flash and this spoiler review of the movie. Now I'm gonna get into the negatives. So here we are, the negatives again. If you're just joining here, this is a spoiler review of the Flash. Okay, so this scene right here, this is the opening sequence. So we have the opening sequence here with the babies. So, the babies, they're falling off the hospital, and he's out there to save the day by collecting all of them and so forth. And there's this big CGI sequence regarding this. Now, when I first saw this movie in the pre-screening, the visual effects for this particular scene with the babies, with the infants, looked very, very bad. It looked very incomplete. It looked embarrassingly bad. And my thought process was like, okay, well, maybe they're showing a sequence of the scene that is not complete for the pre-screen, and then they'll fix it and they'll show it when the movie is actually ready to be released. So that's what I was thinking that might be the case. So I saw it again for a second time, and the CGI is still bad. So it's still the same now. I don't know, because I watched the pre-screen as IMAX, and the screen was larger, so I noticed that there was more poor CGI babies than I would a regular like Dolby screen. Or maybe they just cut little parts of it so that we wouldn't see that many bad babies or bad CGI babies. But I feel like there was a lot more bad CGI, like even more so in the pre-screen. I could be wrong, but I just felt like it was a longer sequence like that. But Andy Muschietti, the director of The Flash, does talk about the effects. So I'm trying to get the part where he is starts talking about that here. So hold on a moment. Okay, so it says in an instant. So I'm reading this in an article here. So in an instant interview with IO9, the Flash director Andy Muschietti said he is well aware these divisive visual effects look weird to moviegoers. Why? Apparently, that was exactly his intention. So Muschietti writes here, the idea, of course, is we are in the perspective of the Flash. Everything is distorted in terms of lights and textures. We enter this water world, in quotation marks, which is basically being in Barry's POV. It was part of the design. So if it looks a little weird to you, that was intended. The director is going to be sticking with Warner Brothers and DC Studios for the foreseeable future. As I mentioned earlier, he's going to be directing the Brave and the Bold film. Okay, so I mean, I'm not sure if I really fully believe this or if it makes sense. Because my thing is, when it comes to DC movies, DC films have not been that successful with most people. I didn't hate most of the DC movies. There were a few that I actually did like, DC Universe movies, DCU movies. And when it comes to the CGI, I think, especially when it comes to like this movie here, when it's like a later DCU movie or whatever, I think that they should have not tested this out with visual effects that are supposed to look weird. They're supposed to look bad. It's like, okay, well, a lot of people are already not liking a lot of DC movies as it is, and now you're going to add a sequence and visual effects that are questionable, or even more than questionable. They're like really, really, really bad. And it's like, why would you want to add that on purpose? It's like, why would you give them more especially to the people who are like criticizing DC movies. Like, why would you give them more fuel to that fire, right? So why would you just give them even more reason to complain about the DC universe? Um, it's like most people. I mean, I'm not sure like why would they go this route. I know they said that it's supposed to be the perspective of the Flash, but most of us don't know about that. I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, I'm not sure. It's like, is this supposed to be like this? So they're just not done with it, or is it supposed to be because he's so fast that this is the way that it looks? I mean, it looks. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that, and it was. I don't think it was a good idea to have used that CGI if that was for real. The reason that it was just the perspective of the Flash. That's how he sees it, and we look at it like it's weird looking. To me, it's like you try to make the best movie that you can as like visual effects, story, and everything. Don't give other people the ability to criticize the movie for things that you didn't need to. It's like you didn't need to add weird looking special effects if you didn't need to, because some of the other effects were good. I did like some of the other effects, so that was something that I thought was kind of odd. So that was the sequence there. Now, still going back to the visual effects, at the end, when I was talking about the cameos, and just in general, when the Flash is running and he's jumping into timelines or whatever, multiverses, he's in like a little like realm, a little bubble realm, if you want to call it. And in the background, you see like what's going on, like people in his life, his parents, him as a child, and they were all like CGI. So they're all CGI. They're not. They could have had the actual actors play those scenes, right? But they decided to go CGI with those, so they look a little weird. And again, maybe it has something to do with the whole thing that Muschietti said that that's his perspective as the Flash. They're supposed to look like this. And I mean, I kind of had my own theory as to why it looked like that for those sequences, not so much the baby ones, but the timeline sequences. Because to me, it's like, okay, especially since we see all the cameos, because a lot of the cameos had people that are not alive, like George Reeves, Christopher Reeves, Adam West, all those, they're not alive. So maybe they wanted to include them to be in that sequence, and the best thing is to have them CGI, so let's just have everything else be CGI, so it's not jarring at that point. You know what I mean? It's like that the mother and the father in the timeline, they were CGI, so then when Adam West and George Reeves and Christopher Reeves pop up, that CGI, that's not really jarring. It's not like, what, all of a sudden they're CGI and it looks really, really bad. So that was my thought, that's why they did that. And that's what I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, that I was thinking that part was intentional. I think that was part intentional. And then obviously they still had Nicolas Cage show up and actually film his scene apparently. So they it still kind of CGI'd it a bit, or de-aged it a bit. And then obviously, Helen Slater, who plays Supergirl, apparently she showed up, like I mentioned earlier, and she's all CGI'd. So that's what I want to say about the CGI stuff. And there was a couple scenes that I noticed that you can tell that when it comes to, the twin effect, there's the older Balan, the younger Balan, Barry Allen, I should say, Barry Allen. There's a couple scenes where you can see Ezra Miller's face, and you look, it's like very CGI, like it looks very fake, but it's like those particular shots were individual shots. I can understand that there's a shot that has both of them, the younger and the older Allen. I don't know, I keep saying Balin. Barry Allen. So you see the older and the younger one in one shot. And I guess I could understand why they CGI'd one of the Ezra Millers in one of the Flash or Barry Allen faces. But it looks like they kept it for an individual shot, because it wasn't both of them, it was just one of them. And you can totally see that the face is completely CGI'd and fake. I noticed that. I thought I noticed it the first time, but the second time I paid more attention. I was like, yeah, it's completely CGI'd, and I don't think it really needed to be, because it was just one shot. It only showed one Barry Allen anyway. So there's that. So that was a negative thing there. And then the other thing, this is another thing that I mentioned, the non-spoiler one, is the younger Barry Allen character, Ezra Miller's portrayal. Now, I'm not necessarily blaming Ezra Miller for this performance. Obviously, this character was written this particular way, but it is a negative. I think he was obnoxious. He was annoying. Yes, he was supposed to be, and I understand that, but I didn't really like his character, and he was kind of annoying, as it was supposed to be. So I just needed to bring that up in there because that was something that I wanted to mention. Let's see if there's anything else here. So again, that was the spoiler review of The Flash. Just explained a few things that I couldn't explain in my non-spoiler review of The Flash. Overall, I really did like The Flash. So I really did like it. It's a lot of fun. It's very entertaining, despite its CGI fiasco, whether it's intended or not. They definitely could have fixed that or should have taken a different direction with that. But overall, I did really like the movie, and I've seen it twice already, and I really enjoyed it. And I hope you guys, if you haven't seen this, or if you did see it, I hope you did like it. I guess I understand that the CGI kind of takes you out of things, and it may just be a deal breaker for you. But yeah, ultimately I did like the story. I like Ezra Miller. He carried the film just perfectly fine. I like Keaton, I like Affleck, I like all the cameos. A lot of the CGI was good, except the baby ones and all the other ones that are quote unquote intentional or whatever. So there you go. So that was my spoiler review of The Flash. So I think that's it for this part here. So again, everyone, I'm still doing the Funko Pop giveaways. So we have, the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So I'm still doing this one. I'm also giving away the poster of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So I got the poster when I went to not the premiere, the first time that I went. I think it was opening day. So they gave us a poster. So like, okay, I mean, I'm not gonna post it anywhere. I'm not gonna hang it anywhere. So I was like, I'll just give it away to whoever wins this Funko. I'll give them the poster too. So if you are, I am going to announce the winner for this. So I do have more than the minimum entries for this. So I'll announce this Funko giveaway either next week or the following week. So I'll let you guys know either in a live stream or on my Instagram page. So if you're not following me yet on Instagram, go ahead and do that for future news reports and giveaways, and when I upload new videos or live streams or whatever. Definitely follow the Instagram page. I also have Twitter and TikTok, so you can follow me there as well. So that one is still open, and this one is also still open. The Batman Ben Affleck Funko giveaway, that is still open. Or if you want the Flash Barry Allen Funko, you can choose this version. This is the younger Barry Allen, and again, I just talked about the spoilers, so this could be kind of spoilery, just so you know. So this is the suit that Barry Allen is using. This is the Batman suit that he paints red, and technically it has the Batman logo in the chest, and then he puts the Thunderbolt or whatever on there. So that's the version. You can see that he cut out the Batman ears. So that's that version from the movie. So so you can get that one, the Flash younger Barry Allen Funko, or the Batfleck Funko. So I think I have more than enough minimum entries for this one too. So this one will be announced either next week or the following week, most likely towards the end of the month. But this one is still open. So go ahead and subscribe, follow the instructions, go to the post, go to the video posts that I have, or the Instagram posts as to how to enter. Must have a mailing address within the US, and then obviously you have to be following the Instagram page or be a subscriber to the Movie Canon YouTube channel. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, so I think that's it, everyone. So let me know your thoughts about everything that I talked about today. The Batman Brave and the Bold, Andy Muschietti directing the film, who also directed the It movies, which I did like, by the way, and now The Flash. So he's directing that. Let me know your thoughts about that news. and you know, the hot toys that I talked about earlier. If you care about that, let me know in the comment section, and your thoughts on my spoiler review of The Flash. So that's it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched this live or you've watched this after the fact, thank you so very much. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And that's going to be it, everyone. Thank you so very much, and I'll see you guys next time.